This is Andrew with the Chosen Prime with a video review of TFC Toys Hades H-02 Thanatos, otherwise known as their version of the Decepticon Breast Force member Killbison. He's part of the team that turns into the combiner Liokaiser. Here's the box that TFC Thanatos comes with. It's just the same as it was for Minos. It comes with the styrofoam insert, instruction manual, and then a bio card. There are no additional limbs, combiner limbs for Thanatos here, because the legs are actually, the feet for the combiner are actually within his legs here, and we'll split off in robot mode. But to start off, we'll go ahead and show off his little breastmaster animal here. Thanatos comes with a little breast force animal that turns into a weapon as well as a chest plate. As you can see, there's some nice detailing and paint, and the clear red plastic is quite striking. And it's just a nice little figure altogether. To transform into gun mode, first we go ahead and flip into the head, flip in his tail, take these back legs and fold them up here towards the back, fold in these hooves to the front side, and we just split this just enough to be able to pull out and flip out this cannon part here for the front of the gun. Sandwich this back up. And there's the gun, the breast force animal in gun mode. There's a peg here on the underside that just fits into his hand. And you can hold it just like as a gun. And then the other mode is a chest plate. So we would just continue folding the bowl in half. It works very similar to the way that Classics Ravage kind of folded up into his tape mode, where everything kind of just flattens out and rotates into place. So we just kind of underside here, and just make sure it all collapses correctly. It's a little bit more involved than Minos's partner, but then here is his chest plate mode. And again, there's just this peg and the peg hole on his chest where you can mount the breast force partner. Thanatos' build quality is a step up from previous TFC releases. The plastic and design and paint just seem quite nice. This yellow has almost a metallic fleck to it. It's got a little bit of shine to it. This is a nice gunmetal. There's some nice gold paint here on the legs, and overall it just looks really, like a great version of Killbison here. Pretty good articulation. Universal hips, knee bends, toe tilt. His arms, even though there's this panel here that's part of the tank mode, it's on a pivot and a hinge, so you have a whole lot of different options as far as moving it out of the way depending on how you want to pose him. Rotating hands. His lower arms here do rotate separate, and they just have a bicep swivel. The backpack from the tank mode is quite nice, kind of clean. You can't rotate it because it is contained his head from that goes in there when he goes into his alternate modes. Waist articulation. If you want to, these guns on the back are on hinges. You can kind of come up on either side as high or as low as you want. They both do that, so depending on how you want to pose those. Nice head on a ball joint. And it's overall, this is a nice homage to Killbison. Now, I will acknowledge that it is a bit of a challenge to transform Thanatos between his different modes, specifically due to how many panels he has and how his combiner limbs are kind of hidden here in his legs. But to start, we'll go ahead and first take off his breast animal partner. We'll go ahead and open up the panels and flip his hands in, and do that on both sides. Next we come to the back here in his backpack, and we go ahead and pull this panel out, so then we can go ahead and his head, there's a peg here that would peg into his neck hole here, and we can just take the head and fold it back and hide it into the turret. Next we want to come here, and this back panel here, we want to go ahead and unpeg it. And if you see, there's these two pegs here on this panel here, but then there's also 4 peg holes on the chest part here. And so depending on which mode you are in, depending on which which peg holes you use. So when you're in robot mode, this is extended out further, so you use these inner ones. But then here to go into tank mode, we go ahead and move these panels out of the way temporarily. Here's this combiner port, which we rotate up. We bring these back up, and we collapse them closer to each other. And then we just take it, and now we're using these pegs to peg into the outer peg holes. Next we can come to the arms, and the lower arm here we'll go ahead and rotate around to get the treads on the outside. And then we would go ahead and just move the arm panel here and the chest and the lower arm panel here. And there's pegs here and here. You just kind of want to get everything matched up. Again, it can be a little bit difficult to kind of get everything lined up in one go, but you can see here, you can get everything so this is nice and smooth. So we'll come over and do it on the other side. Rotate this arm. Go ahead and rotate the shoulder panel here closer. Peg in the lower arm. There's a tab here and a tab hole on the front of the tank here. And there's essentially the top or the front of the tank pretty much ready to go. We can go ahead and flip this panel down. And then there are pegs on this panel and peg holes here, as well as pegs on this backpack that peg into the arms. And so you just kind of get everything lined up and then just kind of press it together, and that'll be the front of the tank mode. So go ahead, for clarity, we'll go ahead and rotate this up for now and come see if we can attack the legs. So the legs kind of work like Combiner Wars, but they're actually a little bit more complicated than that. So we go ahead and open up this panel here, which this part now exposes. This is actually the one part of the combiner foot. And so what we do, if you pay attention here, this is the way that you want this panel and the foot here when it's in robot mode. And so what we do is we pull this panel out and then push the foot through. But the one little odd thing is that there's a peg here that's used later on that gets in the way of trying to kind of pull it out of this leg here. And so with a little bit of patience, we can kind of thread it through. You can see this peg here kind of gets stuck here, but we need this peg in order to kind of hold it all together when we're in the his leg mode. But essentially now we can come out and fold this out. And so then, like Combiner Wars, we go ahead and we are going to want to, kind of come down like that to lower it. But before we do that, what we need to do is now reposition the foot here so that this part here is actually lower. So there's multiple hinges here. There's this hinge here, as well as the ratchet here in the foot. And so the next part, essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to get it this way up into his leg here. So kind of angle it and kind of feed it through. And what you'll see is that it'll kind of fit lower, which gives us now the room, the clearance to bring the leg down. Let me close this panel back up. And we just kind of need to make sure that it all kind of sits flush. So here's the way that the leg and the Combiner War foot kind of go in tank mode, where this part is outside with this section rotated this way. So again, it's a bit challenging to get between modes, but once we get it all set up, he does hold together fairly securely. And there you can hear that it nicely locked in place. The leg here locks in place. And then you would take this panel here, and these pegs and this peg kind of fit onto this part of the foot here. And this part is a bit tricky, but then you just you work at it and you can get it so that it'll peg in essentially there. And then the final thing is we just rise up the foot, and there's the back of the tank mode. I'm with one leg, so we'll go ahead and do the other one. Again, open this panel, open the back panel to kind of then feed the foot through. Then again, you want to go ahead and ratchet the back here down, but then move this up so that we're ready to do it in that fashion. Again, once you kind of mess with it in hand, it's a bit easier to do. And we want to kind of feed it through. Make sure that it all fits correctly. Again, in that fashion. go ahead and slide down the upper leg, close this panel. Again, take this back of the tank mode here, again these pegs and this peg, and just kind of, you need to get them, there's these peg holes on the actual kind of ratcheting part here. And then we just, again, move the foot up. We go ahead now, essentially we just need to push them, peg them all together. The legs kind of peg together, get it all set. We come up here to the front arms, and we just make sure that it all fits snugly. And again, it just takes a little bit of effort to get it all correctly pegged together, but once you do, you'll have a nice solid artillery mode here, ready to go. We go ahead and sandwich down the guns, rotate this around, and there is, once we get it all set up, there is, oh sorry, I forgot one last part. There's a panel here that opens up, which will let us go ahead and flip out a radar dish. And then close this back down, and then lift this back up. Now, note that this does not rotate. This is just one solid piece, so unfortunately this doesn't rotate. But the turret does. So that's a nice little bit, and again, you have action with the weapons. But there is Thanatos in his tank or artillery mode. And then just to reiterate, off camera I spent another 30 seconds just making sure everything was pegged together, you know, this back panel and everything. And it all holds together once you kind of get it set up. It's just a bit difficult to do on camera. This little front part here in the this little radar dish does rotate a little bit back and forth. Again, you have the full rotation on the turret, and the guns do move up and down. If you do want to, the breast force animal does peg into this peg hole up here. You'll either leave it just in chest plate mode, or you can flip out the gun. It's kind of your preference. But this is pretty solid representation of what I would figure, you know, an updated version of Killbison would look like. So of course getting him into his vehicle mode was challenging, and it's also a bit difficult to get him into his limb mode. Now he actually can be transformed either into a left leg or a right leg. I'm going to go ahead and transform him as if he was Liokaiser's left leg, as it is in the instructions. So to start, first we go ahead and open up this panel here so we can hide the radar dish. So pull the dish back a little bit, raise this up, fold it back in, and then close this up. Go ahead and rotate the turret and slide it up so we have access to these back legs here. Now what we need to do is kind of get the combiner feet out. So lift this up, and then that'll go ahead and let us be able to pull the combiner legs or feet out here. You can see here, you can kind of pull this entire panel out to get the feet out. And what we want to do is we want to keep essentially this this part here in the same position. So you want to ratchet out the feet to the outside and then just bring this back down. But before we do that, let's go ahead and move these toes up, these feet up, so they're kind of out of the way. And then by coming back down, this slot here will kind of peg back into place, and then when we collapse it all again, it'll go ahead and sit flush. So go ahead and move that in. Make sure that the hinge moves back up. Again, it's a little bit easier to do this when you're not trying to do it for the camera, but essentially we have it there. Get these out of the way. And then bring it back down so that just the feet are out, sticking past the tank. And then we can go ahead and we can, for now, we can peg it all back together and make it so that it's all, the feet and stick correctly. But then keep this upper panel here, just kind of fold it versus pushing it down, just peg it together and have it in the back. And so essentially here's where we can move into the next step. So go ahead, and what we want to do is we want to get access to this combiner port. So we want to unpeg the tops here temporarily, the arms. So go ahead and get the arms loose so we can get to this panel here. So we can flip that back. And then one interesting thing here is you can see how there's these little like peg hooks that peg into here. So when you want to lock it down, that's how you would lock this this down when you come to this point later. But go ahead and fold this back, which first, excuse me, you're gonna want to go ahead and pull the back open to kind of pull those back pegs out. so that you can get the combiner port a little bit loose. And so what's strange here is you actually make it so that only one side rotates down. So essentially what you want to do is you want to make it so that this side is flush, but that this side is a little bit more open so that the combiner board peg can bend as a knee. And so what you do first is you take, the only time you'd use this panel is for combining mode, is you lower this down and then peg it in here, and then you take the entire, his entire left side and slide it down, and then essentially you would just repeg the entire leg here back into the tank mode. So essentially you're moving this entire chunk one piece lower so that now this combiner port part can move back and forth. So go ahead and we'll sandwich this all back together. And so here you can see I've repegged this all back together cleanly. So essentially all it is you've now moved this entire chunk lower. And so one side stays flush and the other side again stays lower, so that when this combiner peg can move for a knee, because this is like going to be the back of his knee, he can tilt. So that's how the center of the top goes. And then you would just repeg this back panel into the position, fold this back. Or you can fold it back. And so now we just come to the feet. So the feet the toes are a little interesting. So you go ahead and rotate it and fold it out this way. And that's the basic feet. But what's interesting is you actually push them forward and they'll expand. So you come from the back side here and you can kind of see that they're separate parts. And so they shift forward to make a much bigger foot. So again, here's the default foot toe, and then here's the new one. And so we just go ahead and, again, go ahead and just, you want to kind of angle it. You kind of the hinge forward into bigger toes. And what's interesting, so then essentially that is what his leg mode works. And it does look a tiny bit strange, but what's nice is that you do have two functioning kind of toes and heel spurs here. You have rotational joints. You got a ratchet there. You've got a ratchet actually in the actual leg. So if you want ankle tilts, they're on ratchets. And so then they can pose in separately. So if you want, the leg a little bit more askew, you can do that. If you want it more dead on. So you'll have a lot of posability options when we finally get to the the fully combined mode, as far as how the toes look. But there is, Thanatos in his leg mode. Here's Thanatos next to Minos, and as you can see, TFC Toys has done a pretty good job of emulating the Decepticon breast force with these first two members. And you can also see you can get Thanatos almost into his infamous taunting pose if you wanted to, which is a nice little bonus. Thanatos and Minos in their alternate modes, and again, here you can kind of see they really look like they are a great homage to the breast force members that they are designed after. A quick side note here, you can see how Minos's breast master can fit underneath and stow there, and then again here's where it is for Thanatos, so you can kind of put the gun emplacement up on top. So just overall, these guys look really great. Brief limb comparisons. Again, here's Thanatos next to Minos. I think the overall aesthetic that TFC has gone for with this Liokaiser looks really good. I think once we get that full set to make the full combiner, I think we'll be real happy with TFC's take on Liokaiser. Robot mode comparisons with other third-party combiners that are this Voyager scale. Here we have TFC's take on Air Raid, our F-15 Eagle. As you can see, he's considerably shorter than Thanatos or Killbison, maybe a head or so more. Here we've got Unique Toys Troll, or Blot. He's roughly the same height. And then here is Fortis from MMC's Feral Rex. And again, you can kind of see this Thanatos kind of fits this nice larger Voyager scale. Alternate mode comparisons between the third-party limbs. Again, here's Air Raid, Thanatos, Troll, and Fortis. As you can see, while Air Raid was a bit smaller than Thanatos in robot mode, they're roughly the same kind of vehicle, kind of silhouette size in alternate mode. And so, again, he fits really nice, Thanatos does, with these other Voyager scale combiner limbs. Leg mode comparisons with some other third-party bots. Again, here's TFC's F-15 Eagle, Thanatos, Unique Toys Troll, and MMC's Fortis. I think the integrated foot will look just fine once we get to the full Liokaiser. Here in profile, I think it looks great, and Liokaiser will be intimidating even with the integrated foot. I look forward to when TFC finishes the rest of the set so we can kind of see the Gestalt in its final form, but I think Thanatos here makes a really good right leg. Quick comparison with the Combiner Wars figure in robot mode, and you can see that here Rook is considerably shorter than this version of Killbison from TFC. Combiner Wars alternate mode comparisons. Here you can see that Rook is considerably smaller in his SWAT tank mode than Thanatos is in here in his artillery mode. And finally, Combiner Wars comparisons in limb mode. Here you can see that Rook is considerably smaller and shorter than Thanatos in his leg mode. And before I get to my final thoughts, I do want to kind of show off this leg transformation of getting back to robot mode from combined mode. So again, we come to the foot and we press these parts back to compress the foot together. And then we open this panel here and open the back. And you can kind of see that this part is kind of, this back piece is pushed all the way up. And so what we want to do is we want to keep it in that position for when we get to robot mode. So what you want to do is take the foot, ratchet it there, and then ratchet it all the way around. So you start like this, and then just kind of come back off of this hinge here a little bit so you have some wiggle room. Go ahead and lift the leg up so that it's back into robot mode position, and then feed this foot through. And you want to kind of see, you can kind of see how it collapses in, and then this foot comes to the right spot. Go ahead and collapse the foot, move this back, make sure it's all pegged in there, and then we've got him back and his legs in robot mode. I think TFC Toys does an excellent job here with their H-02 Thanatos, or their take on the Decepticon Breast Force member Killbison. If you're looking to add this character or build a Liokaiser into your collection, I would recommend Thanatos. It's a much better effort this go around from TFC Toys, from the plastic to the paint to the design. I think Thanatos is an improvement over their previous combiners. If you're interested in Thanatos or his partner in crime, Minos, both of them are now currently for order at the Chosen Prime, so take care.